So the next thing I was going to ask is that I know students are just excited to get a full-time job offer, especially at a Big Four, right? They think they struck the lottery. However, I heard that the typical turnover rate, unfortunately, is 2 years. Some people either can't handle the workload or they have issues dealing with the quote unquote office politics. Can you talk about some of the challenges that new hires face and what are some of the ways to overcome them?
That's a great question. Let me take care of the second question because that's relatively easy to answer. One, there's no reason why a young professional is engaged in office politics. Okay, do they have a disagreements with a supervisor? Do they think that they don't need improvement in an area that another party thinks they do? Sure, but that doesn't mean it's office politics, right? I know very few young professionals where that's an issue. Really, the issue is communicating with a supervisor or lack thereof. You're correct. And there's a lot of different measures that organizations, CPA firms, and otherwise use to measure retention. You're correct. The average retention seems to be 2.5 years. So for your first job, the average person their tenure is shorter than the amount of time they stayed in college, which I think is a shame. I think this comes down to realistic expectations. You know, Ming, when you think about the recruiting process, it can be very self-gratuitous. I mean, you're told you're great. It's more socially based than anything, okay? And you're the center of attention. Well, you start working, you're not the center of attention any longer, and you're wondering what happened to all the meals and stuff like that, and that I'm a great person. Well, you still are a great person. It's just that you're now amongst many great people. And the fact is, you're part of a business that has to serve clients and make money. So what's in it for you now? There's a lot in it for you. And I think this comes down to having appropriate expectations. Think of it. If the average person stays 2 years, what are they really going to do with the 2 years except have that on their resume and they have 2 years of experience? And I think a new professional, a young aspiring professional has to have reasonable expectations. Think of this. I break down the first 3 years, which would include your first 2 or 2.5 years as a staff associate and maybe 1 full year as a senior accountant. You're going to learn managing and completing tasks. You're going to learn to work in a high-performing team with goals that you are accountable for, which is a lot different than being accountable just for your grades. So when you're working, you're accountable to other individuals. You're going to learn to manage projects. Then you're going to learn to manage and train people. And you're going to get paid for it. If you think about, if you're going to put a milestone, a marker on how long you're going to stay, and I agree, if you're miserable, you shouldn't stay at a job. But at the same time, you have to ask yourself, have you set the appropriate expectations for yourself? And I think those expectations should be in the order of learning to manage tasks, manage projects, manage and develop people. That is the type of training that you're going to get in some of the best graduate programs in the United States, except you're going to get paid for it. Instead of paying tuition, you're getting paid for it and you get benefits. The other thing is, I believe that if you're working with high-performing people, just like think about when you went to Berkeley, Ming. It's not just the Berkeley program, it's the people that's surrounding you. They push you to be better. You learn from their ideas. You interact with them all the time. Well, that's what's happening in your first job, whether it's at a local, regional, national, or a big four CPA firm. You're working with high-performing people all the time, and they're making you better. And I think if you have that perspective, that expectation, you're going to see that the retention's a little higher, but the student's going to get a lot more out of their future job than thinking about 2 years and out. This isn't what I expected, so I'm going to leave. You should set yourself up. I think retaining yourself on the average just one more year is going to open up other career opportunities that you wouldn't have had, including graduate school opportunities and things like that. And you will get more out of your experience exponentially than leaving so quickly.
I absolutely agree. When I was at Deloitte, someone had mentioned to me, like, yeah, you're working really hard, but you're getting paid. As you just said, we're getting paid to learn. And I certainly learned a lot of valuable, a lot about not just the technical knowledge, but how to deal with people, how to manage my time that I'm even using till today. So absolutely 100% agree with you about that. Now I want to,
if I may add, both you and I, Ming, and maybe I shouldn't speak for you, but speaking for myself, that investment enabled me to do things that I wouldn't have been able to in the workplace and out in the community that I would not have had access to had I not made that investment in myself.